I was muted. Boomer moment. It's Mo, and we have some wacky, wild alien, military Top Gun, minus the beach volleyball, I think. But, who knows? A former U.S. combat fighter pilot has claimed that he had a UFO encounter, and it was one of the wildest things that ever happened, again, beyond playing beach volleyball with, Tom Cruise, all oiled up. Gotta love the 80s. Just kidding. Sorry, tangent engaged. But he is sharing his story now, and he did it on his YouTube channel. So let's dive into this. A former U.S. combat fighter pilot claims that a UFO encounter he had while zipping around the skies at 30,000 feet was one of the quote unquote wildest experiences he's had in his seasoned military career. Major Ryan Bodenheimer, a former ace of the U.S. Air Force Thunderbirds and F-15E combat fighter pilot. I don't know the difference between A, B, C, or D. I usually just pick, D, all of the above, but I'm not an Air Forceologist, not a planologist. I think we all know my grasp of math and mechanics is, well, tenuous at best. But he did relay this on his YouTube channel earlier this month that he came close to almost colliding with a UFO shaped like a perfect rectangle while on a training mission in southern Wyoming. Well, I mean, there's like 5.5 people in Wyoming, so I guess if you wanted to not get noticed, you would go to the center, right? Now, Bodenheimer alleged that he was flying during the day at about 30,000 feet in the sky at a speed of about 400 knots or 460 miles per hour when a bright object caught his attention off in the distance, out of nowhere. Interesting how it is interesting how our eyes can catch something out of the periphery of our vision and then focus on it when we weren't really paying attention. Like you catch something out of the corner of your eye. And it is interesting. I do like the sort of science of how things catch our attention, or kind of the survival instinct lizard brain thing of all that. Interesting how that happens. I know that was a weird tangent, but let's continue. Now, however, Bodenheimer realized that the object was on a collision course with his aircraft. I put my hand on the control stick and I'm about ready to turn off autopilot. Then I realized that we aren't going to hit, and all of a sudden it came more into view, and it was a rectangle shape. He said it was essentially like a perfect rectangle. Final form Jesus comes back as Tetris piece. I mean, possibly. Who wouldn't say that?
A geeks grove, thou glowing shrine of thirst traps, scams, and dollar signs. We chant in tones both grim and low, for virtue fled a long time ago. Kyrie eleison, Christe descendat, final form Jesus return in wrath. With six-pack glistening, sword in hand, he cometh swift to cleanse the land.
We can only hope. Now, he claimed that it was essentially a perfect triangle. He claims it appeared that the object was 30 to 40 feet high and a bright white along the outside edges that looked like they were almost glowing, and a clear center. I know it sounds like I'm talking about a delicious pastry, but this was the wildest experience I've ever had, the former fighter pilot said. Now, Bodenheimer for a minute theorized that the object could have been a weather balloon, but he claimed it didn't look like anything he had ever seen in the sky before. And I am guessing that weather balloons are not something uncommon. I mean, I'm sure they're not ubiquitous up in the air, but I'm sure he has seen them before to where he would not noticed. Now, there's no wings on this thing, no exhaust. The edges were so bright they were pulsing. Aerodynamically, this thing shouldn't be going close to 400 knots. For a rectangle to be flying through the air, that was a wild experience. Yeah, airplanes are not made with like blocks because they have to have, air move in a certain way to give lift. I do understand at least that basic concept, if not the math behind it. He said he wasn't picking up any signals on his radar and wasn't experiencing any radio interference as it kept pace with his jet at about 400 knots, just a short distance away. It was really defying any type of aeronautical laws I've learned, Bodenheimer shared. The suspected UFO then zooms off. Bodenheimer said he called air traffic control to report the encounter. After telling the controller what happened, he said there was dead silence before they told the fighter pilot the other aircraft would be on the lookout for this flying rectangle that was glowing in the center, as one does. I've never heard anything about it after, the former fighter pilot said. However, he did do some searching on his own and said there was a report filed that day on an anomalous object spotted in the area. Now, Bodenheimer said for years he never wanted to discuss his 2 run-ins with UFOs after worrying about the stigma around other pilots that have, shared their encounters. However, the pilot turned YouTuber said that since the stigma has, mostly dissipated, again, thank you, Independence Day, aliens are real, Cousin Eddie finally got his, good final moment as he, stuck it to the alien ship. But I do think that more emphasis on, again, people telling their stories. The mind is an interesting thing. When different things happen to us, our mind, especially traumatic or unexpected things, our mind can rewrite our memories in such a way that we might not remember things clearly. And I'm not saying aliens don't exist, but I am saying that I am glad that people are starting to understand maybe these kind of things might be a coping mechanism or something. Not, again, I am not putting that out there. My mind makes interesting tangents, and I do like that we are more worried about, protecting mental health and not shaming people for maybe their different stories, outlooks, perspectives. That is good. That being said, I don't know that aliens would ever want to come by our neighborhood. This planet sometimes, and here lately, does seem like the kind of planet where you would lock the doors, not open the windows, and, drive like 10 and 2 white knuckled until we got out of here. That being said, if they would like to share, their technology, better Wi-Fi with us, that would be great. That being said, it was, interesting to me to understand, what was going on. And I love these kind of stories. I wouldn't be opposed to aliens as long as they don't do the Stephen Hawking's, pointed out a more advanced civilization upon meeting a less advanced civilization generally never works out for the less advanced. So that's more of the 3-planet problem or the 3-body problem. And, that's more of a philosophical question. Now, southern Wyoming is notoriously known for having some of the most UFO sightings in the country, according to Cowboy State Daily. I know where I'm moving to. The city of Cheyenne, which is home to Warren Air Force Base, has had over 50 reported aerial phenomenon. Out of the state's 241. No, I'm sorry. Again, numbers are bad for me today. I do apologize greatly. 421 sightings since 1995. Hopefully that number thing won't be an issue. When y'all join me over for the Barry Morphew grand jury indictment reading, we have 10 pages of that. So shameless plug, come on over at 10 o'clock or join the replay crew if you're watching this later. And we will be going over that. This is going to be kind of the first time I've even dug a toe into the Barry Morphew case. So let's get into that. As always, thank you for spending your time with me. I appreciate it greatly. Have a wonderful day, and I will see you all soon. Bye, my lovelies. Remember, be kind to yourself, be kind to others, but have a sassy mouth and carry a can of bitch fire because we never know if those aliens are going to be our friend. Possibly, maybe be nice to us, give us the eternal secret to all the questions we've been asking, or destroy us and take our water. Who knows? As I said, I still think this planet is one that aliens lock their windows and doors sometimes, but that's just me. I'll see y'all later.